in the 80s, my dad, his factory was in Delhi. We spent a lot of time in Delhi. And when we took holidays, often we went up to Musoorie through the hills. And I remember at one point in Musoorie, Missouri has some like wonderful boarding schools, right? It has Woodstock and wonderful boarding schools going back to like colonial times, gorgeous campuses, lovely. So my dad is like, "Hey, you want to check out some of these schools?" And my mother, so we're walking past and we see these little white kids who look emaciated. They were not dressed the way the other kids were dressed in uniform. They looked like their judas were bigger than their heads, and they were wearing what my mother would politely call a jabba, like a shapeless sack, compared to the rest of the students who were dressed very smartly. And I see these, and I remember that they were, some of them must have been my age, but some of them were definitely younger than me. And when my father's like, "Hey, should we go check out some of these schools? We're up in Musoorie. Why don't we go check them out?" My mother, in a very, very joking tone, goes, "Yeah, maybe we'll send you to the Gora Sikh school, the white Sikh school." Because it was known that those were torture chambers for the kids. Like, wow. It was known. Okay? This idea that, like, no one knew. I was like, people in India knew. Because these kids were, like, isolated from everybody else. Their schools were, we didn't understand what system they were in because they weren't in the SSC system or the ICSE system, or, we didn't understand if it was like American school because they didn't stick to any of those standards for these kids.